What's that? Who there? Whoa.
I want to push on the sustainability piece because for Buffy, all of your products are made almost exclusively with eucalyptus versus cotton, polyester, down, some of these other materials that have persisted in the industry.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to break down why is it better to use eucalyptus than some of those other materials for the
Right.
consumer, and then of course break it down for the environment as well.
Yeah. I'm always like one question behind you. I'm sorry, but I realized I didn't answer your last question fully, which is how it's evolved, and it's tied into this. I think as we grew from more than just one product, what really tied everything together was the sustainability mission premise, right? That's what you could see written into every product and made every product different from what we would find outside of Buffy, right? I think before the solution to starting the problem, the textiles industry in general is one of the biggest polluters on the planet. I think it's the sixth largest, if you include obviously clothing, home goods, other soft goods. We don't recognize, but the average t-shirt that you're wearing, or let's say a pair of jeans, that pair of jeans probably took about 5,000 gallons of water to grow the cotton that went into it, especially if it's a affordable kind of pair of jeans that you're purchasing at the typical place that the average American consumer would shop. A lot of that cotton is coming from somewhere like Pakistan or India, where irrigation methods are slightly less advanced or less precise than they are here. A ton of water is being used just to manufacture that in a world, particularly a part of the world that is extremely sensitive to water constraints. Water in the Himalaya kind of basin is almost a geopolitical issue, right? That people fight over. Just to give you an example of how important that is. So I think from a waste standpoint, from a resource utilization standpoint, textiles is a big old mess. And a lot of companies and brands are here to work on transforming that, right? Buffy is one of them. We choose eucalyptus because primarily it uses 1/10 of the water that your average cotton product is going to use to cultivate that material, right? It's also comfortable, it's durable, it's silky smooth and soft, it has a bit of a cooling hand feel, it's biodegradable, you don't have to worry about it harming the environment in any way. But since eucalyptus, we've also introduced products, other sheets, for example, made out of hemp. We have a linen bed sheet set that's made entirely out of hemp. It's extremely soft, and what's great about hemp is it actually uses less of the stored nutrition in for example, field where you're actually cultivating the crop. It's also lighter on water usage. It doesn't require as much pesticides or fertilizers in order for you to have a very bountiful harvest. It just grows very well. All of these small things kind of stack up. And then the last thing that we use a lot of is a recycled polyester. Polyester was largely, I think, popularized in the 50s and 60s. When we discovered it, we were like, wow, this is a miracle material, right? It's super cheap, it's super durable, you can make it out of oil, this is crazy, right? But we've come to realize that, relying on petroleum to make things that we wear is a little bit maybe backward, especially things that we sleep in, right? And I think that combined with the fact that there is, I think, estimated to be the same weight of plastic in the oceans as there is fish by 2050, we're living in a world where polyester and other sort of petroleum derivatives such as plastic are becoming more and more of a threat to us, right? And so instead of using new polyester to make bedding or textiles, which is literally done every day, it's 99% of what people are buying, right? We are able to use the same that has already been made before and recycle it so that it is actually given a second life and a comfortable comforter or pillow or whatever you're purchasing.
Yeah. And how do you guys think about, continuous innovation and R&D at the company? Because I think what's fascinating as you dive into different companies is some will have, almost like a sprint of innovation initially to come up with their revolutionary product, and then they'll ride that for a while. Others have this DNA where innovation is infused, and they almost have a group with material scientists and product engineers dedicated to consistently trying to push the boundaries of what's possible. Which camp do you guys fall under, and how do you think about that as a leader of the company?
Um, I think we are almost at the point where I have enough resource to invest in a real team and, for example, a like VP of sustainability with a material science and consumer goods background. But to date, we have utilized a network of friends and consultants. For example, my family has been in this industry for some 30 years. We have a pretty large network of manufacturers, all the way at the raw material stages of things. And so we know a lot of people doing interesting things with different materials. And that has been the source of a lot of what we have, I think, incrementally brought to the industry. Right? So, for example, I don't know if I'm even allowed to go into this, but we're introducing a pillow later this year that's a more like sustainability and technology driven pillow, a little on the more higher end of the price point. And we're looking at different materials. And one material that I'm very excited about, we're not necessarily committed to it yet, but is something called TPE. It's essentially a synthetic rubber, but the great thing about it is it can be made from a recycled rubber, but it can also be recyclable and is just fully biodegradable if you fail to recycle it, which is an amazing alternative, I think, to a lot of the kind of more firmer and supportive materials that are in bedding, whether pillows or mattresses or cushions, etc. Right? We want to keep innovating, and I think we've been scrappy about it, is the short answer. I think maybe one thing that's helpful is if you go on the Buffy website, you can read more about this, but on our mission page, we make long-term commitments. Long-term commitments to ideas like being fully closed loop or circular, for example, right? That means that everything we make basically doesn't either spin off a ton of waste or requires a lot of resource extraction to create it, right? This is a long-term goal, but for a company and a brand to kind of commit to that, it basically, I think, holds them more accountable and commits them to doing things like constant innovation. Another thing that we're going to make more transparent to the customer later this year is we have started to basically measure the environmental impact product by product, manufacturer supply chain, stage by stage of everything you buy at Buffy. And you'll literally be able to see it in like a pie chart compared to a standard product that you'd be buying from like Bed Bath and Beyond, for example, right? And this kind of like quantitative rigor and transparency is something that Matt, our CMO, is very, I think, much leading and very much believes in. I think it's just, at the end of the day, is something that, again, helps the consumer understand exactly what they're biting into, and again, holds us accountable to innovating more if we want to lead in terms of sustainability.